Let's go. So, for this dragon, we're gonna start with a bird base, just like with the crane. Now, the most noticeable difference to the crane is that for the crane, the second diagonal is optional, whereas for this dragon, it's quite mandatory. Because this dragon, unlike the crane, has a little more detail and a little bit of a different approach to finalizing the model. By the way, you can use pretty much any kind of paper, since the complexity is only a little bit above the crane and quite, free to how much detail you want to add. So your creativity really is the limit here. Like, usually I don't even fold these with paper this big. I fold them with little scraps like this. By the way, you don't need long nails for this. These are actually for playing guitar. Now once we're here, we just close this up like so and build a bird base. Now if we were folding a crane, I would ask you to leave a little bit of a gap to the center here so the layers don't get in each other's way that much. For this dragon though, it is actually not really making a difference, you know? So yeah, this is the fast way to do it without pre-creasing. Just crease all the way to the center here and on the other side. Don't really have to worry that much about the top right now. And now just stretch it out. Easier said than done. So, there we go. Now the most noticeable difference between the dragon and the crane, which is quite important in the next step, is that whereas the crane utilizes, let's call this the lower side, for the head and the tail, the dragon uses the other side. So that little triangle that you see up here is actually its belly. Now, you could leave it like it is, but for the final shaping and the overall module, it's actually better to thin it out a little, and we're going to do that next. There we go, that's the bird base. Here we have our 4 very simple limbs. Now fold this down. To thin out this belly, we fold this corner to the center here. Make sure your layers don't act up, because this is quite a thick crease usually. Then fold it strongly so you can invert it better. You can also just fold it back the other way as well if you like. But usually this is enough. Now we open this up. You pull on diagonal corners. Oops, and it ripped. Okay, let's not pull on the diagonal corners. Terrible paper. Here. We puff out this little square in the middle. Hates me. There we go. Here. There's a little more here there. Okay. Now this goes to the center, and make sure that you bring these corners in. Do not fold them down, because that's possible as well. You can fold them down like this. Don't do that. It's quite imperative that we fold it all together like so. Now, next, these corners we want them to disappear, so we fold them down right up to the center, which is why it's that important to do that last step, because if you don't, if you fold these center corners here down, then they will still be separate after this step. So the belly would be open, and we don't want that. So that's the first big difference to the crane. Now next up, just like with the crane, the belly side is the one that forms the head and tail. For the crane it would be this side. For the dragon it's this side, so for thinning them out we are actually using the upper side here, thinning that down by folding to the center. Again, you don't really need to leave space to the center because these layers will not really get into each other's way, except briefly, which is fine. Now, as you might have guessed, since these are going to be the wings, and they are now folded in half, we're actually going to fold the whole thing the other way shortly, which is why we need both diagonals. Now this is getting quite thick, but it doesn't really get thicker than this. Now, for the next step, we are going to fold this the other way, but you can see the layers do get in each other's way. So at the same time, we're going to fold out the head and the tail. Now how we do this is we have these very thick lines here. We're going to bring this out exactly to these lines. So we fold little creases right behind them, like so. And now, as we fold it closed, we bring out the limb. Same on the other side. We get inside here, we crease onto these lines. And there we go. Now the basic model is pretty much done. You know, we have the wings here, we have head and tail, or head and tail, my god. And that's really where your creativity comes in. But I'll just show you a simple way of shaping this model that I like. Now first, of course, folding down the wings. This is a little bit asymmetrical, it doesn't really matter. Now, when we have paper this big and not this small, we can add a little bit more detail. If you use paper this big, you can add even more detail, but then I'd ask you to just fold something more complicated than this dragon. Now for the wings. Something I quite like with this kind of dragon is to just fold this line between the two corners of the wings, like these corners. And then we add a little shoulder. And how do you add a shoulder? You fold in this corner here, just quite arbitrarily, and make sure the crease goes up into this tip. And on this side, it's quite thick here, so you might need some soft violence to force it into shape. But even with very thick paper that I'm using right now, it works just fine. So here, we have a little shoulder. Now, just fold the wing whatever way you like. Usually people add 1 or 2 more creases. I'm just gonna do arbitrary measurements. Like so. And you can leave it like that, or you can do a little zigzag, like fold it back and forth. Make sure that your back and forth ends at this tip. Like so. But yeah, that's really just however you want to fold this, just do it. Oh man, this paper really doesn't like me today. There we go. That's a bit far, whatever. And you can even fold one this way. Right up to the body corner. And there. That could be your wing. Now, I'm going to do the next one off cam. So, for the body, I think it looks cool if we just add a little bit of a smaller head. So, while we have a lot to work with here, just use only a little bit on top here, however way you like to shape the head, really. I'm folding it like this, so I hold it here, and then I go inside, push this on top, and just keep it there. Now, you can bring this inside crease here to the other side to create a little bit more volume. Here, like so. Now it's twice as thick, and then you just push in there to get it done. Now, we don't want to have such a pointy nose. We can make a little horn, like this. And there's a dragon head. Now, it looks up. We could make it... let's just get the wing out of the way for now. We could make it turn back a little here. How do you make it turn back? Just push in here. And yeah, let's just do it this way. Pull it out a little. That's actually quite far. Okay. And now have it come back the other way around. And that we can do the same way we did the head, just more subtle. Just subtle little creases. Come back around here. Now we have this nice little curve. Now for the tail, you can pretty much do the same. You might want to add these creases here and yeah, roughly the same distance. So since I use this like 1 finger width, I'd like to do that here as well. Now it goes in a little S-curve here, so it would be nice if the tail also kind of followed this S-curve. So I'm going to fold it in here as well. So it goes back like this, maybe pull it out a little more to make it more subtle. And then I have it come forward as well, but this time I'm gonna fold it down like this. Whoop. Really annoying when this happens. There. And have it come forward one more time. Whoop. Pull it out a little. And now it can go back again. Here. Yeah. Arbitrary curving. And there we go. That's this kind of dragon. Let me know what you think about it. And if you would like to see a tutorial for one of my other models, like this more complicated volcano dragon with a volcano on its back, or this very simple bird.